Hey, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty well, and welcome everybody to this new season. I would say this is season number two of What If Curiosity.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, it is. Today, actually, is the first chapter of the season number two, and we are starting with a quite interesting topic. Now we are getting into the practical stuff. And the first topic that we'll be approaching actually it's what if you become a super educator? That's something that actually is really exciting. What do you think, Matt?
I love it. Of course, with our backgrounds in education, and I think interesting, not just our backgrounds, but I think we both have an interest in the future of education too, in a positive way. So when we think about education, I think we always think about what if, right? And I like this for reasons we'll dig into deeper, I think, but the phrasing of this, like not just an educator, but a super educator, especially in these days. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in these days, and just
Yeah.
to give some people, our viewers,
Yeah.
some of the reasons actually of this topic. It's that very soon in the future we'll be launching a program actually where yourselves, with you that you are looking at this video, you can become a super educator because
Yeah.
we'll be sharing with you guys all the tools and all the material and the content that you can
Mhm.
use to become a super educator. And going beyond that, of course, now is very common when you think in terms of Marvel. When you think in terms of superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, years ago it was just Superman, Batman, nothing
Mhm.
else. Yeah, of course, and Spider-Man. But other
Yeah.
than that, it was very, 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 very small the universe of superheroes. But now we have a huge universe, the Marvel universe. Um, the thing is, what do you do when you are a superhero?
Mhm.
What do you do when you are or you want to become a super educator?
Yeah.
Actually, that's one good question, Matt. What do you do, or how what do you are when you are a super educator?
Yeah. And I guess one of the reasons I was excited, thank you for the question, but also why I was excited with this question is it's also a perfect example of how we've worked with people, educators, particularly in the past, right? So, for example, people will say, we want to use curiosity to make better teachers or anything else. And we get this is an angle. This is right because what you said, superheroes are so powerful right now. But one of the ways that we would start this using a curiosity based approach is before we start creating, we want to really understand it, right? So one of the things I would ask, and I want to ask you, and I would ask, anybody else participating, is what are first of all, what is an educator? Before we can go to the super level, and not to overcomplicate things, but what are three characteristics of an educator? Is where I would start. And again, you and I can discuss this. I hope everybody watching can kind of think and jot it down. We'll give them some time. But while we're giving them that time, and by the way, don't take too much time in these questions. That's the other thing about using this curiosity based approach. We try to limit the number of responses. So it's not like, what are the characteristics of an educator? Because we can go on forever. We could also, if we have a shorter amount of time, we can say what's the number one characteristic of an educator. That might even be better, or just what's one, right? And again, if people want to share, feel free to share. Type in. We'll comment on those because I'm curious. Because one is it's going to be different for everybody. And I think
Yeah.
when you tell people this is the one method to become a super educator, it's like, how is that possible? Because everybody's so different, right? So one is like, let's start with something that's personal, that's related, that's coming from you, the user. And then once we have that, we can discuss that. But it also gives us, from a design perspective, it gives us a roadmap of like, this is where we're trying to go from this point on. We're going to try to reach this level of an educator, but go to the super level. So then the next question is, what is a superhero? Or what? And again, everybody you're saying that the universe of superheroes has been growing, but also what a superhero is, or who a superhero is, is going to be different from each person. So again, repeat the exercise, right? Big believer in doing, two things at once, right? So you take this with the educator, and then you take it with the superhero, and then you do the either the one characteristic or the three characteristics. And it sounds silly, and believe me, it should be easy and it should be quick. But if you can write these things, whether it's 2 words or 6, you now have the ingredients, you now have the elements, the pieces of the puzzle to actually start creating a super educator. And if nothing else, it gives you some guideposts to go for, right? You can at least start now, putting in the plan or putting in the action steps. We could go on to other processes and methodologies to help get you there. But I think this is a great question, because I think it's a great way to kind of reveal how we approach working with educators. And the other great thing about this process is you could switch out super with another, adjective, or you could swap out educator with another focus, so you can repeat the activity, with different focuses over and over.
Yeah, that actually, I do agree with you in terms of what is actually an educator, and
Mhm.
how do you define an educator. um, Usually we tend to think that there's only one answer to this question, because when we are talking about the next evolution of education, usually some people think that we are just saying that previous education was bad, and this is not actually what we are saying. We are saying that it's time to think in a different way or take different approaches, because now we are living in a different reality.
Mhm.
The beauty of reality is that it's just one, and it's the one that we are living now, not the
Mhm.
one that we'll be living in 5 minutes, in 5 years, in 5 decades. It's today, and
Yeah.
pretty much today we're living in a different reality that the reality that we were living in like 45, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you are an educator and you watch different magazines, newspapers, even scientific papers, or a lot of memes, on the web that
Yeah.
is saying, "Hey, this is education 200 years ago, and this is education today."
Yeah.
Sometimes it is like, "Oh my God, yeah, am I wrong in the thing that I'm doing? Because I spend like 100 hours a week.
Mm.
I work really hard, and I really am the guy that I'm studying and doing the best I can with my students. So
Mhm.
at some point, it's not fair just to say that this is wrong. No, the thing is,
Yeah.
depending on where you are, and depending on the reality that you are living, and the life that you choose when you become an educator, you have your own definition, and you might have different terms or
Mm.
different goals
Mhm.
in the region or the reality where you are, because it's different when you are an educator of some kids in a small town in Colombia, where I'm from, uh, or you are an educator and you are educating people Wharton or Columbia University in New
Yeah.
York. That's quite different, and at some point the definition might change for you. It's not that we are saying that everything is related, but is that at some point it changed, and depending on that definition that you have,
Mhm.
and we are, and I'm starting from the point of view that you are an educator because you want to be an educator, because you think really hard about becoming an educator and educating people. And in the process, you have your own definition that you say, hey, I'm a good one because this and that. We are not putting a scale here
Mhm.
and saying, hey, you're a bad educator or you're a good one. No, all we know at the personal level is that we are doing the best we can with the resources that we can. The thing here is using our methodology, using the what if methodology. How do you expand the
Yeah.
definition that you have to unlimited levels? How do you leverage in this methodology to get to the point where you say, hey, now I'm doing the best I can, but now I can do it on an exponential way. And this is how do you become a super educator, is you have a superpower, and you have a like a boost of energy, a boost of methods, a boost of knowledge that you can use in your class uh, to be even better than you think you can become. And that's another way of thinking. Hey, usually we think in terms of, oh my god, well, how great will be if I have the superpower to look through the window, to look through the walls. Yeah, but you change. Actually, when you have a superpower, now you have another way of acting, because it's not just having the superpower, it's learning to use the superpower, and with curiosity,
Mhm.
and curiosity as a base of thinking and as a way of uh, learning. It's like having a superpower in your class, and that's the thing. And I think that's very important to, as you said, just to define the educator and super. That's the my first comments on that.
I like that. Yeah. No, I like that a lot. I'm just jotting down some notes from you. These are fantastic, and and I'm sure everybody would have a radically different response, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like curiosity helps expand your definition of an educator. And there's all types of educators out there, especially in today's world, right? But I think that's important to point out that the process is when you adopt a curiosity based thinking approach to education, it really doesn't matter what type of educator you are. It doesn't really matter who your students are. It doesn't matter the subject or so it really should open. Like I also, like you mentioned, the idea of exponential, right? So I've been writing down some comments about just like the idea of exponential educator. When you apply this curiosity approach, I know it definitely will make you more creative. I think you definitely will have more creative insights in however you educate, however you teach, right? But I think it to your point, it should also help your educational experience grow exponentially. And again, we can talk about different definitions all day, but like what does grow how? That's going to differ upon the individual. But I do like the idea of exponential education.
Yeah, and I use that term and that word, the exponential,
Mhm.
um, in order to be to create some level of conscious
Mhm.
consciousness in the process, because at some point when we are educating people and we act as educators, we used to think in terms of just the maybe the classroom, the
Mhm.
class, our city, and maybe our country.
Mhm.
But nowadays, the beauty is that at some point, when we are using the curiosity based learning and
Mhm.
you are the super educator with the super tools, it's not
Yeah.
about you. You know,
Mhm.
now it's about the potentiality and the potential and the huge potential
Mhm.
that you are boosting in the people that you are educating, and the people who are taking your class, and the people who's learning from you,
Mhm.
because those guys will have a huge impact in the whole world
Mhm.
that will make you the super educator of these kids, of this person,
Yeah.
of this young adult, of this uh, mid 40s guy who is taking a new training. But thanks that you are using this curiosity based thinking,
Mhm.
this guy on the 40s, or this beautiful lady on the 50s, now she knows that she faced like another 40 years to apply the knowledge. It's
Yeah.
just to be. It is not the thing that we are like we said a couple chapters before,
Mhm.
when we were talking about getting inside the box, out of the box, or everything is in the box.
Mhm.
and that you can take different approaches, and it's not you, it's the impact that you are having on people. Being a super educator is when you go beyond yourself and beyond your own definition, and you start taking steps towards the definition that the people who is actually trusting in you uh, can make them an exponential person. And when you say, hey, exponential, what is exponential? That at the same level of effort, you can multiply for tens of thousands the factor that you are putting into the world.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's a reality today. Now you have the power and you
Mhm.
have the tools to change the life of some people that will
Mhm.
be able to change the life of millions of people. That's when we say, oh my God, that's the importance of using the what if curiosity based
Yeah.
thinking. Because the people who is maybe learning some basics and learning some concepts on one specific area, how do they use this concept? How do they expand the knowledge to different areas,
Yeah.
or to benefit the community, to benefit the world?
Mhm. How do
Now
you go
you
beyond?
are the super educator. You know the beauty in this is that you are and this is a personal take. The
Yeah.
beauty in this, and my personal take, is that you are not a super educator based on the actions that you are doing today.
Mhm.
You'll be a super educator based on the benefits that in the future the people who work with you will have in the world. So basically, this is something that you are doing today,
Mhm.
but the real definition will show up in the future. That's my take. So basically, so basically you need another superpower, to see in the future, something like that.
Delayed benefits, though.
Yeah, delayed benefits.
But that's okay. Delayed gratification is a thing. I think it's a motivating,
Yeah,
and they've tested this in young kids, right? They've shown like with the cookie experiment, they explain like you can have like five right, or one right now, or if you wait an hour, we'll give you three. And it's amazing, they test young kids on this because a surprising large, to you and me, we go, of course, I'll wait for the three, but it's something that almost needs to be developed over time because a lot of kids will go for the one now. Yeah. But it's something you're talking about there that just again triggered something in my mind, made me write down as far as definitions. And you didn't intend it this way, I don't think, but as far as what is a superhero, you were giving a definition of an educator. Um, I listen. You mentioned this. You said it specifically, but then you kind of talked about it after that. But this concept of going beyond, right? And I'm always looking for how do you simplify things? How do you say things in the fewest words possible? Or all of this, and just the idea that what if a superhero is or what is a superhero? But someone or anyone who goes beyond. And then as that applies, as far as a takeaway from this for the educators, are like, okay, cool. I want to take your courses. I want to read all this stuff. I want to, learn how, study how to be an educator. Well, what can you do immediately? What if the thing that you can do today as an educator is going beyond? And and I think I've spent over 15 years in the classroom, so I've worked with educators. I've taught education, all this. And in addition, if there is a factor or a characteristic other than curiosity that you can kind of point out to the educators who, and I like how you put the benefits are years in the future. Like if you really judge the educators like on their worth, like the good educators versus the so-so ones, and you judge it by the products or the benefits of their students, way in the future, in addition to curiosity, the other characteristic common all those educators are they go beyond. They're the ones who, like in the university, they may have office hours, but their office hours are whenever you find them, right? They don't. I had university professors close the door on me and tell me their hours are only these times, or And I had other university professors that would invite, like if I went to saw him at the bar after class, he would invite me for a beer and hang out. You know what I mean? And the examples can go on, and there's examples for elementary, and but it just is a simple takeaway that anybody can do immediately is just how can you go beyond? Like the next time you're faced with something like, I know I need to do this, or this is the minimum, or maybe your beyond could be more than the minimum. I don't know. But how can you go? And I think that's an easy, not just an easy, but a very effective start for an educator. Because if you can build that into who you are as an educator, the willingness to go beyond, as a simple concept, I think I can't promise you you're going to be a great educator, but I can promise you you're on the right path. And likewise, if you can't, and this is no judgment, but if you can't wrap your head around the idea of working beyond the time you're scheduled, or offering more than what somebody paid for, or any of these little things, then again, no judgment, but maybe education isn't for you, or maybe you need to come back to education at a different time or something. But yeah, not. But that's just I think a fascinating little takeaway here, listening to you about the going beyond. And now I'm thinking of, I guess he's not a superhero, but Buzz Lightyear from
Oh yeah.
Beyond. But it is interesting because he failed all the time, right? But he had this motto that pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. He's kind of a hero of failure, and he's not even a real spaceman. It's plastic. It doesn't work. It's all this, but he sticks to this motto of to infinity and beyond. And if you recall your good educators from your past, the people that you had good experiences, right? I think it's fitting. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you yeah, you put this example of Buzz Lightyear. This is
Yeah.
one of my favorite of all time,
Nice.
actually. Yeah, and it's a toy.
Yeah.
The beauty behind the concept of Buzz Lightyear is that it's a toy,
Mhm.
and at some point you're putting your trust on a toy. And what
Huh.
it's not even real, or it's not even a person, and I know that it's a toy. And this toy has the tag, to the infinity and beyond.
Mhm.
And actually, what that means when you're thinking in terms of the infinity and beyond, there's a huge um, philosophical support of this. That is the trust. Is you are trusting in something beyond yourself. Yeah, and you put your trust
Mhm.
that will be something
Mhm. Mhm.
beyond, even beyond the infinity. And the
It's
beauty of,
exponential. Sorry to
and
interrupt.
it's totally exponential. I would say
Yeah.
people from Singularity University, you
Yeah.
should have Buzz Lightyear at the front door.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah. Yeah. It goes.
yeah, but the beauty is, when you are a super educator, and if you
Mhm.
want to become a super educator, you don't need the big muscles of Captain America or the speed of Flash,
Yeah.
or no, it's that you become a super educator when the people or the kids that you are teaching to or educating, they use it, they will be able to use the same tools that
Mhm.
you are using in order to learn today and in the future, and of course beyond that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
in that moment you become a super educator, and as you just said, because some educator will say, oh my god, I will have to work another 20 hours a week. No, it's not that. Maybe, I don't know, but
Mhm.
maybe you will need to work less,
Mhm.
because sometimes you work really hard, because at some point we are doing it on the wrong way.
Yeah.
But when the beauty in this is that you are educating people, that they can educate themselves
Mhm.
in the areas of being curious about life, or being curious about the topics that you are teaching, being curious about if you're a teacher of math, biology, science, physics, chemistry. At some point, it's about getting curious. It's about yeah. I learned this principle of chemistry in my classroom, because you have a limited time in your classroom as an educator. But when you multiply the number of students that you have and the hour that they do have at home, and if they want to exercise the curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
you unleash the power of exponentiality. And then, after years of doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and you go to your to your list of students and you say, "Oh my God, there's been like 1,000, 2,000, and each of those 2,000, they are thinking in terms of being curious at home, at the company, at the work."
Mm-hmm.
Now you are the superhero. You are the super educator, and this is the invitation that we are doing actually to you, that you are watching this video and you are watching us on streaming, or even on YouTube later, in a couple months, in a couple years even. um, it's about the transferring your own powers
Mm-hmm.
to the people that you are working with. And this is how you become a super educator, is being able to transfer, and being very generous, and it's not closing the door. Or maybe if you are the guy that is closing the door because you are so shy, because there are many reasons. It's not always because you are an angry person. No, because at some point you are a shy guy, or at some point you are very busy. But the thing is, in the situation that you have the content, and people have the options to talk with you and go to your office, uh, and you don't give away, um, not just the concepts, but you give away the tools and the basics of being curious, of how to explore your curiosity. I think that's how. In the what if curiosity based thinking and learning model, we have the 8 steps, of course, and how to use it. And this is the invitation. Let's go and let's get together with us. Let's explore this, because this is actually is for your students.
Yeah.
Of course, will make you a better person as well,
Yeah.
and this thing will change your life, because you will find another set of goals, and actually problems that are more interesting. And I will assure you that, and I will say for sure, that the type of troubles that you will get into are a very next level of quality of
Yeah.
problems, that
Well,
actually it's good to have good problems.
there are problems that'll push you too. So
Yeah.
there's a value in having these problems or overcoming these problems. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Okay. In this new season, we have new things on the show, and we have this new thing, that I will show you in seconds. That is okay. Let's think in terms of questions at the end of the program. Questions that we can solve in less than 60 seconds.
Okay.
The question that I will have from you, that I have for you, it is this one. It's if you know actually that you are a super educator,
Uh-huh.
what's next? But let me frame this
Uh-huh.
question with this short video. Yeah, so the question is, if you know that you're a super educator, what's next?
Wow. So personally, if I know I'm a super educator, what's next for me is, I'm going to find my students. That's the most pressing. That's the pressing matter. Now, that's the thing that I'm going to want to do, because I think when you're a super educator, all you want to do is share, right? You've got something that you want to teach. You got teaching is sharing, right? Now, that's probably what I want to do next. What I need to do next is a whole nother question. But the question was, what do I want to do next, right? Yeah. So the
Yeah.
next, what I want to do is find my students, because I can't wait to share with them all of the superpowers that I'm able to educate with now.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's a perfect definition, and that's a perfect answer, Matt. So, Matt, it's so nice, of course, to start this new season of the What If
Yeah.
Curiosity programs, and we'll be talking about these specifics and these specific areas,
Mhm.
or where you can apply the What If curiosity-based learning method. And stay tuned, please, you guys. And don't forget to subscribe to our channels, and you'll be watching more interesting content in the future.
Excited.
Yeah, it is. Matt,
All
it's
right.
so nice to get here with you.
All right.